to script this out so you don't have to manually do it each time. Alright, there you go.
We have our chest there.
So now, he's behind that again, so let me change his sorting order to 2.
And you can also script this out so
now he's on top of that spawns point. And here's our, I guess this will be our chest. So what we're going to do is we are going to on top of that spawns point. And here's our, I guess this will be our chest.
yeah.
What we're going to do is we are going to alright, so what we're going to do, let me just move that over. I don't know if you can move stuff. I think you have to like erase it. Alright, so what we're going to do, let me just move that over.
Let's just go with this thing because it's smaller.
I don't know if you can move stuff.
We'll call it a chest even though it's a... Just go with this thing because it's small.
This is one problem with.
One problem with this guy is kind of hard to get.
We'll call it a chest even though it's
Thought we could zoom in.
There we go. Yeah, sometimes these guys, they exist, but they're kind of bugged out because they're just not an actual. Alright. That'll have to do. Yeah, sometimes these guys, they exist, but they're kind of bugged out. I'm actually going to rename this to be not an actual. Let me read up on this. We're going to do tiled. Object labels. I'm actually going to rename this to be. Let me read up on this. I'm going to do tiled. There we go. Oh, you can give it a name. There we go. So let's call this objects, and then call this chest 1. Let's just call it object 1. And delete that. Alright, cool. Now let's import this guy, see what it looks like. Here, objects and object 1. So it's just the name here. Now let's import this guy, see what it looks like. It's not done. Oh wow, look at that. Interesting. I don't know why it does get imported like that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to make it so in our UI you can click on and this UI is not very useful right now. Okay, so UI. What we're going to do is we're going to try to make it so panel in our UI you can click on and we're just going to make it so you can this UI is not very useful right now. Click on this guy on the side. I do it up here. It'll just say you found the chest. Display panel. And call this, click on this guy on the side. Panel inside. inside the panel, we're going to have some text.
You found the chest.
Panel inside. Text. 20 Arial normal. Flow. Panel text. Okay, so then over here, basically what we have, let's see what that looks like. So it's over there. Panel text. Okay, so then over here, basically what we have, open up our project, Visual Studio. So it's over there. Open up our project, Visual Studio. So here's all the Tile to Unity stuff. Here's the stuff that I've done. So there's a player script where the player moves around. You grab the camera and the game controller. Here's all the Tile to Unity stuff. One thing is the collision. One thing about the collision, the way it works, is basically all the collision areas have box colliders on them. So the box collider is just a rectangle saying this is something that collides. So if you actually turned on physics, you could bounce off it and technically even jump off it. But we're doing top down, and we don't want to have the kind of physics system where you're moving. We're doing turn-based movement, and the collision is not going to be handled that way. So basically, you still use the box colliders, and what we do is we go through and we grab the bounds of the box 2D and then just use that to check if we're going to collide with something. So we have a method here called so basically you still use actually it's in our tile map data. What we do is we go through you're going through and getting all the collision rectangles, and then you check the collision here. You just iterate through all your collision bounds and see if the rectangles intersect. And if so, then don't move on to that tile. So it's pretty standard tile-based movement, but we're using the box 2D bounds as the way to define where you can move them out. Iterate through all your collision bounds and see if so, then don't move on to that tile. So it's pretty standard tile-based movement. So, but we're using the box 2D. Tile map data is where we're storing the data that we import from the map. Basically, there's the prefab of the map, which is what's in Unity here, this thing here. And obviously, we'll be loading these guys. There'll be prefabs saved in the project, and accessible to the resources. We'll load them on the fly like this, so they're part of the hierarchy, and then we'll also read in some metadata about the prefab map. So the metadata basically goes through and creates the list of collision objects, and it also gets the spawn point, and also we're going to grab the objects right here. So we're going to do a list of, so the metadata basically goes through and creates this. What are these objects? These are just bounds. So there's going to be bounds. And then we also need some other. This is just for testing. We're going to do the class. We're going to do. Actually, just for illustration purposes,
we can do a list of strings. These are going to be object strings. So these are going to be tied, you know, in the real game we have a complex list for each zone of what the points of interest are, and they'd be tied to your object bounds. But right now we're just going to use a string, so we're going to do a string. So these are going to be tied to code. In the real game we have bounds, list, and we pass in our actual points of interest tile map game object. But right now we're just going to use a string, which is the prefab. Well, the instantiate prefab. So we say string you found the chest. This guy, we already kind of do this. For the collision, so instead of this, it's going to be objects. And I guess we don't even care about the name really. So it's going to be object child. And it's an actual transform. So this here is a transform is the important thing. And then you get all the box collider 2D components, and then you say object bounds.add box.bounds. So now you have all our objects, which right now it's only one. So we'll add something else next. And then you get, what we're going to do is say now you have all our objects, which right now is only one. So we'll add something else next. So we can either check collision, or we can do make another one. Probably void check actually. So this is kind of a hacky way to do it, but we're going to return the corresponding object string. Say return string. So this is kind of a hacky way to do it, but we're going to return the corresponding object string. Yeah, I guess you do need to do you can do something like count. This for plus let's say if object bounds intersects with test bounds, return object strings. Alright, so we're going to check the object collision. I'm going to do it through here. Public void check. Alright, so we're going to check the object collision. Right now it's just the player. Do it through here. And say string object star equals tile map data dot check object collision player bounds. So if player star equal null, then we are going to, so we need to get a reference to our debug text. So we're going to text reference text equals text. Panel text. Capital P. So you grab your panel text and you say text equals object strip. So let's give it a shot. So you grab your panel text. Oh, that's not gonna work. The player has to actually check that, so we need to go to our player controller, update camera. The player has to actually check that, so we need to go to our player controller, update camera. Let's do it at the top of the thing. And that's going to be play balance. Let's do it at the top of it. This is tile. Seed strips. Alright. Well, technically, since turn-based game, I'm gonna set these things. Technically, since turn-based game, we technically don't want to change these things, check these things every turn because, or every game loop iteration. Yeah. We technically don't want to change these things, check these things every turn. This can have a game loop iteration. Check where I'm putting that. Well, we need to make and now you start getting into kind of race conditions, which game object loads first here. And now you start getting into kind of race conditions, which game object loads first here. Nice thing about this is you can do attach to Unity. So what's null? Tile map data is null. Nice thing about this is you can do attach to Unity. What's null? Tile map data is null. Still complaining, huh? Oh, it's because we re-imported our map and we didn't give it a name. What is there? Still complaining, huh? Check collision.
Man. Just not used to coding for a digital audience here. Just sucking it up. Alright. Just not used to coding for a... You found the chest. Bam. Took one off. Alright, so yeah, basically let's add something else. Let's do